Alrighty, welcome to a brand new Flyers Daily. It is the 13th of March, 2025, and Flyers Daily is, as usual, brought to you by Ticketmaster. Make more memories live. Flyers season high 7-game homestand continues tonight when they take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Before we get to that matchup real quick, let me just tell you a couple minutes. We're going to get to Flyers general manager Danny Briere about the trade deadline, about the rebuild, where they are in the rebuild, how they move forward in this rebuild, and much more. So very enlightening conversation with the Flyers GM coming up. So stay tuned for that. I very most likely will not be performing the pod tonight for tomorrow, Friday's Flyers Daily. I do have a treatment coming up today when this pod comes out today, for right now for me, tomorrow. But I do have a treatment, and we'll be probably missing Friday's episode, and we'll see where I go from there if I'm available to be able to do Sundays with Bill and Monday. I just don't know if how I'm going to react once again to my treatment. So just wanted to give everybody a heads up. Brian Smith will have you covered for when I indeed cannot go. Not looking forward to today. Every recovery is a little bit harder than the one before, cumulative in effect. But it's what needs to be done. So we go in for number 5. We start the second half, kick it off the ball at the second half of this first phase of treatment, and we'll do that today. So we'll get after it and hope for the best from the side effects thereafter. All right, Flyers and Tampa Bay Lightning coming up tonight. Tampa, this next 5 games is absolutely brutal for the Flyers. It's Tampa tonight. So they're all 5, they're playoff teams. Flyers have a 5-game losing skid right now. All 5 of those games coming here on this homestand where they lost to New Jersey, or excuse me, where they lost to Calgary, Winnipeg, Seattle, New Jersey, and Ottawa on Tuesday. The next 5, 2 of which will be at home, which is tonight against Tampa at 7 o'clock. Carolina on Saturday, another playoff team, wraps up the 7-game homestand. Then they'll go to Tampa, who's the 3rd team in the Atlantic Division of the Eastern Conference. Then they'll go to Washington, who's the top team in the Metropolitan Division. And then they'll go to Dallas, where they'll take on the Stars, who just acquired Mikko Rantanen and are an absolute wagon of a team. They've got every box checked, in my opinion. It's going to be an interesting playoffs. But, you get the top team in Washington. You get the second-place team in the Metro in Carolina, the third-place team in the Atlantic in Toronto, and you get the second-place team in the Central in Dallas coming up. Now, it's this sport of hockey, the older I get, the more I realize it's just really not that complicated. Sometimes we make it more complicated maybe than it needs to be. Great players put up huge points. Nikita Kucherov doing it once again. 28 goals, 64 assists in 61 games and 92 points. Insane numbers. He's got more than an assist per game, let alone 28 goals, 5 of them on the power play, 21 assists on the power play. They've got a great power play. Their second leading scorer, Brandon Hagel, in 64 games, has 71 points. So there you go. 2 guys, more than a point per game. Let's make it 3. Braden Point has played 59 games. He's got 32 goals, 33 assists, 65 points. Jake Gensel, point per game. 63 games, 63 points, 32 and 31. They got the goaltending. They've got the D. They've loaded up once again. And we'll see if some of the moves that Julian Brisebois made at the trade deadline to try and extend this, keep the window open for this team to get back to a Stanley Cup final after they went to 3-1 back-to-back, if they can somehow come out of what is going to be an ultra-competitive Eastern Conference. So we shall see. What are the numbers that Vasilevsky has put up this season? In 51 games, well, he's a horse. 51 games, 30 wins, 18 losses, 3 overtime losses, 225 goals against average, and a save percentage of 920. 920, very high in today's NHL. Just stellar, still just putting up huge numbers. Future Hall of Famer without question, in my eyes. Not for just the work that he does statistically year in, year out, the work he does in the playoffs and the work he does in closeout games where they have a chance to close out the opposition. If you look at those numbers, they're absurd. More on Tampa Bay as a team. Now, I mentioned they're 3rd in the Atlantic Division. When you look at the goals for games played, where do they rank? 2nd in the NHL. They average 3.5 goals per game. Flyers are going to have to find a way. You want to compete with Tampa, you got to find a way to get to 4 because they're probably going to get to 4. And the Flyers, during this homestand, three goals in the game, the 6-3 loss against Calgary. Then the next 3 games, they only scored 1 goal. And then the last game, they only scored 2 goals. got to find a way to score. Tampa gets offense, but it doesn't come at the cost of defense. Goals allowed per games played. Where do they rank there? Number 7 in the NHL. 2.69 goals allowed per games played. Special teams. These are all the boxes you want to check when you look at teams that are legit cup contenders. 26% on the power play, 6th in the NHL. Penalty kill for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Their team, they're doing good in every other stat. Why not do good there? Well, they do that well as also 9th in the NHL on the PK, 81.6%. That's a team. When you look at those numbers, to me, tell you that that's a team that could get out of the Eastern Conference. Will they? Look, I don't know. Florida, you got some great teams. Washington's having a great year. The X factor is Andrei Vasilevsky. They've got the goaltending, and they've got so much playoff experience. And Flyers are going to see them 2 times in their next 3 games, sandwiched by the second-place team in the Metro, the Carolina Hurricanes. So tough road ahead for the Flyers here as they come down to the final 16 games of the 24-25 season. All right, let's get to our feature conversation. Had a chance yesterday. Have a little sit-down, one-on-one conversation with the Flyers general manager post-deadline, regarding the deadline, the identity of the team to build going forward, and tons more. Here's my conversation with Flyers GM Daniel. Lots to talk about, trade deadline, and much more. How you doing, Danny?
Hi, Jason. Doing good. Wish we could wrap up a few wins here and there, but overall, yeah, we're doing okay.
It doesn't get any easier for you the next five playoff-bound teams, Tampa twice, Carolina, Washington, and then Dallas. Wow. That's a murderer's row right now, isn't it?
Yeah, all good teams. But at the same time, it's good. It's good to see who are the players that will fight through, that'll keep fighting. Not that I'm worried about that, because we've shown in the last couple of years that we have guys that keep working. Even the last couple of games against Jersey and Ottawa, a couple bounces here and there, but at least our guys showed up and played as hard as they could. But yeah, we're definitely coming down the gauntlet here with some really good hockey teams.
You guys subtract basically 4 NHL roster spots, rostered players at the deadline. We'll get into the specifics on that in a minute, but obviously that doesn't help the team, this season, and you got to fill those with what's most likely is inferior players. How do those conversations go with your veteran players like Travis Sanheim, Couturier, Konechny, when you've had to do this now 2 years in a row?
Yeah. Well, especially this year. This year we were maybe a little bit more aggressive. Last year we were in a playoff spot. We knew we didn't want to lose Sean Walker for just nothing. We tried to bring Eric Johnson, who's very serviceable and great leader for us. But this year, looking at the position that we were in, first of all, I think we were 5 points out. But the biggest issue was we have to leapfrog, I think, 5 or 6 teams to get into it. So the reality was we were in a tough position, and it was a seller's market. The prices to bring players back was so high that we didn't feel it was right to spend some good assets for the future to bring other guys in. So unfortunately, we removed more players than we brought in, and it makes it really tough for the team. So we understand that, we know that, and all we're asking our guys is to keep playing as hard as they can, make the stay competitive. And you never know. Sometimes it's a new opportunity for guys that maybe haven't had as much opportunities, and to see what they have and see if they can help us in the future.
It's also an opportunity for some specific players to end their season strong, whether that's Jamie Drysdale, who looks like Danny, looks like a light clicked off in his game. Maybe it's just as simple as maybe removing the brain and the thinking and playing instinctually, but he looks like he's doing that.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see the way Jamie has been playing, the way his game is taken off. And it's not always easy to be patient with the young guys, but this is an example of a players that seem to be going in the right direction. And we forget Jamie is still young, even though he came in the NHL. He was 18 years old. He played through COVID. He was probably rushed into a role that was a little too aggressive, too early for him. So he's been injured as well, and he's missed a lot of playing time. So it's really exciting to see how much of a step he's taken in the last probably couple months, I would say.
Yeah.
His game has taken off, and we hope to see more out of him to the end of the year, and then see what it leads into next season.
Yeah, because he can get through the year healthy again. Being able to stay available and have a good finish to the year could really send him into the offseason really feeling good about his game. Did you know
Absolutely.
that since you took over roughly 2 years ago, and it was the 22-23 season. Of the 35 players that were rostered played for the team that year, 19 of them are no longer here. Does it feel like it's been that hectic to you? That's a lot.
All right. No, I didn't realize.
10 via trade.
Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't realize it was that many. You have the feeling that you have the same players that were around, but we said it from the get go. There's some things that we needed to change. And we feel we're going in the right direction, but we've lost some good people along the way, and
Yeah.
that's just the nature of the business.
Let's talk about one in particular at the deadline. Obviously, Scott Lawton. It's not an easy piece to trade. Maybe it is from a hockey standpoint because he had a contract that was very movable and he's well thought of around the league. But it's a difficult piece to remove from your
Yeah,
culture, your locker room, and everything that he brought us on the ice. He's a Swiss
yeah,
Army knife.
yeah.
How does that deal come together with Brad Tree Living to land him with the Leafs for Gurbenkin and the 27 first round pick?
Yeah, well, it's always tough removing. Scotty Lawton made us a better team, so obviously removing him, weakens our team, no doubt about it. And like you mentioned, the culture, the leadership that he was able to help us with, the jack of all trade player that he was. You could plop him on the first line, down to the fourth line, kill penalties, play on the power play, take faceoffs. It's just so versatile, and he's going to be missed. But at the same time, it was a market where teams were very aggressive. They wanted players like that. They were looking and asking for him. Not just Toronto. There's many teams wanting him, and we just felt it was the right thing to do for the future of this organization. We had been in talks with the Toronto Maple Leafs for a while. They were very interested in Scotty Lawton. That was one of their highest target. And it took a while for it to come through, and I think the prices just kept going up around the league for those types of players. And it was important for us at the same time to not just trade them for future assets, but we wanted a young prospect coming the other way as well to help us, not just in 5 years from now for a draft pick, but a player that is almost ready and could be part of what we're building here for the next hopefully 10, 12 years.
Yeah, Gurbenkin was a pick initially offered instead of Gurbenkin, and you kind of pivoted to the prospect as
We
opposed to
we
another
we
pick.
went so many different routes. There was all kinds of different discussions,
Yeah,
and I have to be careful with what I say here by respect for all the players involved in the Toronto Maple Leafs and Brad Tree Living. But Gurbenkin was certainly one of the prospect that we had high interest in.
he brings you some size on the wing too, and you
Yeah.
need a little bit. You guys looking for a little size up front there.
Yes, that was a big part of it. A player that can help us, that can make plays, that can be strong on the puck, but also the size factor was very important. There's no, we can't hide behind the fact that our on the right side with Matvei Mishkov, Travis Konechny, and Bobby Brink, those guys are all playing very well, and they're part of the future, but they're on the smaller end. So what we're trying to do is bring some size around them. It's good with Tyson Forster and Owen Tippett, but Nikita Gurbenkin is another bigger sized winger that's going to help in that department.
You end up moving Kuzmenko. You get a third. Was it something you were looking to do to move Kuzmenko, or did this kind of just develop and you go, "Maybe this is a good opportunity. We can move
Yeah,
him and get something for him."
no, we weren't. I didn't know how much would be out there for him.
Yeah,
Obviously, we tried to feel the market, but there was nothing really going on until that day. And I think because it was such a seller's market, teams were whiffing on different players, and the LA Kings called, and that it came about really really quick. It's not something we were aggressively pursuing or trying to do, but the return was just too good to pass up. in a situation that we were in.
You've done business with Rob Blake before, going back to the Provorov trade, and did some business there as well. Rasmus Ristolainen obviously was a name that was out there a ton, Danny. He has 2 years remaining on his contract after this one. I think to me, he looks like a player. If you're going to move him, it would make more sense in an off season when you can get more teams involved, and when they're setting roster and kind of year to year planning. What was the interest level in Risto? And it was you're just going to have to be an overpay, because as soon as you trade a guy like Risto, you're looking for a guy like Risto.
Yeah, he's a very important part of our defense core, and even moving forward, we don't want to be in the basement forever. We want to start making grounds. We feel is still 2 years left on his contract at a very reasonable cap hit. So it's not like we were shopping him or aggressively trying to shop around the league. Yes, there's teams and the contenders want guys like that. A big right shot defenseman that can play physical is exactly what teams want going into the playoffs. But we never felt that anything was serious enough to consider. I have to listen. That's my job.
Yep.
I did get some calls on him. But there's nothing that really made sense for us to do at this point. And we're glad that Risto is still here and help us moving forward.
Yeah, and he's a guy who presents a lot of accountability on the ice as well. I know you mentioned in your kind of post-deadline press availability that perhaps, this phase of the rebuild, phase one, if you will, is maybe a little ahead of where you thought it would be. Now, when you were named the GM and you and Jonesy were presented to the media, you guys said, we're going to rebuild. We're going to do this right and patiently, the proper way. And, Flyer fans have their skepticism about that. Flyers and rebuilding doesn't really go together a lot of times.
Yeah.
But you guys have stuck to exactly what you said you were going to do. Is it a little bit ahead of schedule, though?
Well, it feels that way in a sense that, some of the guys have really taken a step. Last season, Konechny, the previous season, Konechny, Tippett, for example. But this season, a few more guys have taken another step. You're talking about Cates and Brank and Tyson Forster, Jamie Drysdale on defense. Can't forget him as well. So there's a lot of guys that have taken a step, and then some of our prospects. And we can't forget Matvey. Matvey coming over really helps. Going in on the offense, as far as the rebuilding, and some of our prospects are developing really nicely as well. So that's really exciting. The toughest part is to be patient, and I know, and I really appreciate our fans that understand and see what we're trying to do, being patient with us in what we're trying to do. But when we started, we didn't know. We said it from the get-go that the players would decide. And that's the exciting part for me, is some of our young guys have really taken a step, and we're starting to see that. So there's a chance that it might be a little quicker than expected.
Phase one is the really hard part, to stay patient, because you're a competitor. Anything you do, whether you're playing ping pong, bocce ball at a family picnic, or playing in the NHL, you want to win. You want to go home with a win. Yeah, no matter what it is. And phase one is tough. It's easy to say, hard to live.
It's tough. Yeah, and especially when you're removing good people like we had to do with Lawton, Eric Johnson, Kuzmenko this year. It's really tough to do. We all hate losing. We have a coach that hates losing more than anybody else. And it's the same thing in the front office. But we said it from the get-go. There's a plan, and even for myself, I tried remind myself constantly to be patient. This is the right way to go. But yeah, there's definitely some moments where we can't wait to be on the other side and be adding players rather than removing them.
Well, phase two of that rebuild is that part, and you guys look like you're going to be entering that. You have a lot of money coming off the books. You're going to be living in a rising salary cap world, which I know NHL GMs have been longing for many years since COVID. And it's a pretty aggressive raise in the cap year to year over the next 3 years, at least what's been reported and anticipated. But these decisions are just as important as those decisions that you just had to make over the last 2 years, aren't they?
Absolutely, and that's why we try to be careful. And when we're telling people how aggressive we're going to be, it's got to be the right time, the right players as well. It's not just throwing money out the window. and hoping it stick. We got to follow the plan, and it's got to be the right people that we bring in, and be careful. It's nice to have the flexibility that we will have. It'll start opening up a little bit this summer, but moving forward after next year is really when the door opens up even more, when a lot of the dead money off our cap comes off. So it'll be exciting, but you also still have to make the right decision that who you bring in.
It'd be nice to get out of the dollar store and get to the premium outlets again, isn't it? You know, start shopping in those places.
It would be exciting. If the right players come around too, and there's free agency. The other exciting part is we have a lot of assets
Yeah.
that maybe can be worked in a trade. So we're going to explore everything.
Yeah, you come in to this draft and you've got 3 first-round picks. I think 4 in the second and another 3 in the third, or 4 in the third. It's an astounding amount over the next 3 years, really. NHL GMs, I know they value those first-round picks, Danny, like gold bullion. They love the first-round pick.
We saw that. Yeah, we saw that at the trade deadline. And the interesting part is that the picks get even more valuable at the draft.
Yep.
Because everybody's there, all the scouts are there. That's what they've worked for their whole year to get ready for. So we'll be looking at every option, trying to move up, trying to move back, acquire more, to try to move around. Maybe we spend on acquiring players that can help us. Everything will be on the table for us. So maybe we draft with all the picks we have. Maybe we make some moves, but we will be exploring everything.
That's a great point that you bring up, that you get these draft picks, you get the Florida pick, it gets punted to this year, but when you get to the draft floor, that thing has now increased in value because everybody's there and the shopping's in front of them. That's a great point. I never even thought of that. Last thing for you, when you're building and you're going to be in this next phase over the next couple of years of the building phase of it, you see the playoff teams that are out there that are there every year, whether it's Colorado or Dallas or Florida, Tampa for years, and you see the way they're constructed. And there's different ways to build a team. Bill Zito builds a team differently than Jim Nill builds a team in Dallas. But you see the identities of this team. What is the identity you want to build for this Flyers team going forward? What would kind of the DNA be?
Well, I think that's in a culture that we've kind of started to put in place. It's going to be a hardworking team that's plays a fast-paced game that's tough to face night after night. We've brought that the last couple of years. Our coaches and our players have done a tremendous job with that, and then now it's adding the skill level. It's adding the high hockey sense, and just keep building off that. Now, I wish we had a superstar like Connor McDavid. But that's just not our reality. And like you mentioned, there's different ways to build and build our team, and that's what we're looking to do.
Yeah, he may be on the market not this summer, next summer, Danny. You never know.
Yeah,
He may have a lot of money yet. Yeah, teams tend to not want to give up players like that or let them go and find a way. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, the identity to me, we kind of need to describe as fun hockey, that high flying hockey. Let's go. Let's work our asses off. High flying, fast paced hockey. Players like to play that. That's attractive.
Yeah. And we're trying to do that, and we did that for parts of the season. I think right now, with losing the players, the confidence affected a little bit. So we haven't seen that probably in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, in general, we have a lot of fast forwards. We're a very good rush team. And as we add skill and we had size to our roster, I think we'll become a better puck possession team, and that should help us take the next step.
No doubt about it. And the evaluation continues through the remainder of this season, I guess final 16 games, and that'll begin tonight with the Flyers and the Lightning. Danny, thanks for doing this. Best of luck. Appreciate it. We're looking forward to the remainder of this season, and then obviously the summer and phase 2 of the rebuild. So thanks for doing this as always.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. All the best to you as well.
Thanks to Daniel Briere for taking the time to join us here on Flyers Daily. Enjoyed the conversation. All that matters now is what they do going forward. You've got draft capital. As Danny alluded to, they could use that draft capital. They could use it as pieces in a trade. I thought it was interesting what he brought up, that the first round picks, they gain value on draft day on the draft floor because everybody wants in on the action. This guy's dropping. Let's see if we can get another first round pick late in the first round. Those picks go up in value. I never even thought of that. But in that moment, they do. They surge in value because of the immediacy with they can be used. So that's something to look for. Flyers got 3 of them in the first round this year. We don't know where that first pick's going to be just yet. We don't know where everyone's going to be just yet. But that's interesting thinking from the Flyers GM. So we appreciate him joining us, and I appreciate you joining us as well. Again, I won't be there for tomorrow's episode. Hopefully, we'll have him. I'll be joining Bill Meltzer for Mondays with Meltzer. If not, Brian Smith will, and I'll get back as quickly as I can. Hopefully, the recovery is as swift as possible from this now 5th round of chemo that I'll be doing this morning, maybe when you're watching this. Everybody, have a great couple of days. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the semi-warmer weather, and we'll talk to you next time on a brand new Flyers Daily.